drawing up the game plan before the political games begin. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Going beyond the headlines.
Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
This is the second day of a two-day cabinet meeting for the Prime Minister and his ministers. They are huddled again in Toronto today to plot strategy for the upcoming fall session of Parliament. And one of the big highlights of that fall session will be the federal budget, Mark Carney's first budget as Prime Minister. He has been previewing that budget, claiming it will both reduce government spending while at the same time make huge investments in the Canadian economy.
It's both. It's both. The federal government has been growing spending as a whole at over 7% a year on average for over a decade. That's twice the rate of growth of the economy on average. It's not a sustainable situation. So we need to rein in spending. We need to find efficiencies. We're in the process of finding efficiencies. One of the big elements of the discussions over the next 2 days will be about those efficiencies. It won't be the final discussion of that. We'll continue to work on this right up to the budget. So we need to do that. But at the same time, we need to invest as a country. And it's finding those efficiencies. It's the responsible thing to do with Canadians' money. This is Canadians' money. It's not the government's money. It's a responsible thing to do with that. But in finding those efficiencies, we create the room for these big investments.
As the Prime Minister sees it, the government will lead the way on the investment side and others will follow. He calls it catalyzing. His government will be the catalyst.
And the key to our strategy for investing, whether it's Build Canada Homes or these major projects, I can give you other examples, but look at those two, because you'll be hearing more about both of those in the coming weeks, is that the federal government, sometimes working with the provinces, but government, there's a bit of measures to catalyze investment, to catalyze enormous private investment. And that's how we get the big multipliers, and that's how we're going to give ourselves more than anyone else can take away.
This two-day cabinet meeting is hearing from a parade of experts on everything from national defense to housing and even the mood of the public. Pollsters Jean-Marc Léger and Sébastien Dallaire made a presentation to cabinet where they outlined how Canadians are feeling right now. Dallaire says Canadians are being patient with the new Prime Minister.
What we're seeing is Canadians are still giving the government the benefit of the doubt on what's happening. Will there be a trade agreement? Maybe, maybe not. They're a bit hesitant one way or the other. And when we ask them about is the government meeting their expectations, so far the answer is mostly yes. So they haven't lost voters, as Jean-Marc just mentioned. The government is still as popular. People are still waiting to see. So they want change. They want to see action, but they're not at the stage where they're starting to move away from the government in terms of support.
On the issue of Trump and tariffs, Jean-Marc Léger added that Canadians are evenly split on whether Carney will even be able to get a deal done with Donald Trump.
And if we ask the question to the Canadian, do you believe that Mark Carney will succeed to have a deal with USA? People are mixed feeling. So it's 50-50. 50% of the people said he will succeed, 50% said he will not succeed. So that means, for me, the Prime Minister has some room, okay, to solve this issue. He doesn't need to solve the issue in short term because the expectation are it will be difficult for the next few months. And people understand that.
We're already getting a preview of what some of the battle lines will be in the upcoming Parliament. Immigration will be a big issue, and the future of the temporary foreign worker program. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is calling for that program to be scrapped completely. He says it's robbing Canada's youth of job opportunities.
In the first half of this year alone, the TFW program has imported 74% more low-skilled labor than in all of 2015. TFWs, the number of temporary foreign workers, has now 2% of our overall workforce, and a staggering number, an unprecedented number. Now, the Liberals promised they would cap the temporary foreign worker program at 82,000, but in the first 6 months, they've already handed out and 5,000 permits. To put this into perspective, if they do the same number of permits for temporary foreign workers in the next 6 months that they did in the last, they will break the record again with over 200,000 temporary foreign workers coming in to take jobs when our own young people are facing record unemployment. The Liberals have to answer, why is it that they're shutting our own youth out of jobs and replacing them with low-wage temporary foreign workers from poor countries who are ultimately being exploited?
When asked about Poilievre's bid to see the end of the temporary foreign worker program, Prime Minister Carney said the future of that program is a top concern for people he speaks to in the business world.
That program has a role. It has to be focused in terms of its role. And it's part of what we're reviewing. It's part of what we will be discussing, how well the temporary foreign worker program is working and how our overall immigration system is working. We've been absolutely clear as a government that we want, and we're putting in place policies so that the overall level of immigration as a proportion of the population will decline from around 7% today to around 5% several years from now. Now, the biggest contributor to immigration is not temporary foreign workers, it's a variety of other factors. And I will say, et je vais répéter en français parce que c'est important, when I talk to businesses around the country, particularly in Quebec,
Repeat
but
this in
elsewhere
French.
across the country, their number one issue is tariffs, and their number two issue is access to temporary foreign workers.
What is now known as the Temporary Foreign Worker Program started out as a much smaller program called the Seasonal Agricultural Work Program back in the mid-60s. It was designed to fill labor shortages on Canadian farms. The last time there were major reforms to the program was in the latter years of the Harper government back in 2014. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
He's my friend on the right side of things. Michael Taube is back with us. He's a syndicated columnist and speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Hi there. How are you?
Hey, how are you doing? I'm good, Rob. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. It is the second day of Mark Carney's cabinet meeting in your city, in Toronto.
Yeah.
Now, there was supposed to be a curious guest speaking to the cabinet, making a presentation to the cabinet, if you will, a man by the name of Kevin Roberts.
Right.
Now, he's not going to appear. There's some kind of scheduling conflict. He couldn't make it. But Kevin Roberts is the president of the Heritage Foundation. Now, I know a little bit about the Heritage Foundation. For example, I know it's a right-wing think tank. It's a conservative think tank.
It is.
But that's about it. But that's about all I know about it. To be honest with you, I would like to ask you, you're probably more familiar with it than I am. What is the Heritage Foundation? And why would Mark Carney want to hear from the president of the Heritage Foundation?
Yeah, that's sort of a two-edged sword, but we'll take it in a break. The answer to your question is yes, I do know quite a bit about the Heritage Foundation, and I've actually been close with some of the senior members in the past, a little less so now, not for any personal reasons, but just because the people I knew and worked with or used to, we worked on sort of an advisory capacity, they're either retired or they've moved on, or in some cases they passed away, which unfortunately is just part of life. But the Heritage Foundation is, as you said, a small C conservative think tank, a right-leaning think tank. It was actually commonly associated with the late U.S. President Ronald Reagan. It was one of his favorite institutions and one that he referred to quite a bit, and his administration. There have been people in Republican administrations who have either been part of the presidential candidates of Republicans or have been, had pretty strong access to them overall. So I think that's where we can sum it up, so that in the conservative side of things, on the right side of the political spectrum in the United States, the Heritage Foundation is one of the top dogs, so to speak. As to why they were speaking here, your guess is as good as mine, Rob, because when I first saw that Kevin Roberts was going to speak there, I was beyond puzzled, in the sense that this is not the old federal Liberal Party. This is not a Liberal Party, say, run even more recently, shall we say, by Paul Martin when he was prime minister, where right-of-center ideas wouldn't necessarily fit into the Liberal wheelhouse, but because they sat on the political fence, they would at least listen to them. And if you saw a Conservative speaking at a Liberal event, you might still say, well, what's the point? But you could kind of understand, well, maybe they're attracted to a certain percentage of them. Some of the cabinet ministers might be interested, the sitting prime minister, etc. The last two prime ministers, that being Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney, I don't even see what the relationship would be or what the Heritage Foundation or Mr. Roberts would have to offer a very left-leaning government. Now, to be fair, I know people are continuing to make this nonsensical remark that Mark Carney is some sort of a progressive conservative, with the quotations under progressive. I've dismissed that argument, and others have too, and the proof is in the pudding, based on everything that Carney is proposing, including a fall economic statement or budget, as they say in October, which is at least estimated to be $486 billion and possibly higher, which would make it over $500 billion. I'm sorry, but from a small c conservative perspective or a modern conservative perspective, that's not the sort of government that the Heritage Foundation in any country would have any interest in.
Okay. Kevin Roberts, though, he's in Trump's orbit. So wouldn't it be helpful? What do you think? Wouldn't it be helpful to hear from someone, in that circle to learn more about what makes Trump tick?
Yes and no. I mean, I just don't think, unfortunately, the Liberal government today has open ears and open eyes when it comes to that. I think they've taken some very poor stances when it comes to Trump and tariffs. I know that Kevin Roberts is in that circle, but again, as I said, the Heritage Foundation has been in Republican circles for a long time. This is not a Trump organization, and the president is not a Trumper. It's basically everything sort of fitting into the small c conservative movement in the United States. I mean, yes, you should always listen to everybody. I'm with you on that. But in that sort of an orbit, I don't really understand the connection.
Let's think about this another way. Okay. The Heritage Foundation, Republican, conservative think tank from the United States. What do you think the reaction would be, say, in progressive circles or in the progressive media, if it was a conservative government having this cabinet meeting and a conservative government had invited the president of the Heritage Foundation to speak to cabinet? I suspect heads would explode. What do you think?
Well, maybe yes, maybe no. And don't forget the NDP a number of times have invited U.S. Democratic operatives into their conferences and into their boardrooms. They certainly do listen to it. You can make the argument that the U.S. Democratic Party is more closely aligned with the Liberals, which obviously, when they go advise the NDP, may raise some eyebrows. But at the same time, it's still in a consistent ideological circle on the left, so you can kind of understand it. Well, maybe obviously progressives their heads would explode, but they explode over everything these days, Rob. That's not terribly shocking to me. I think that actually you could sort of see a Heritage Foundation president at a Conservative Party conference.
Okay. When we come back, we'll talk about Bill Blair. Looks like this is my own take on it. I think he's being pushed out the door by the Carney people, but he is a parachute at the ready and is in line for a soft landing with a diplomatic posting abroad. According to news reports, we'll talk about Bill Blair, his career in public life. He's a Toronto guy. Michael's a Toronto guy. We'll be right back. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
We are back with syndicated columnist and speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, Michael Taube. Michael's with us every Thursday from the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. This is curious the way this story has kind of come out over the last few days, a story in the Globe and Mail. Bill Blair in line for a diplomatic post, along with Jonathan Wilkinson, okay?
Yeah.
And then then the very next day, in the Toronto media, John Tory's son plotting by-election run in Scarborough Southwest, which just happens to be the riding held by Bill Blair now. So I don't know what Bill Blair thinks of all of this. Maybe he's totally on board. I mean, there are, worse gigs to have than being the next ambassador to the UK. I would say that's apparently his next gig.
Seems like it.
But I must ask you, I mean, Bill Blair, a number of high-profile jobs in the Trudeau years, Minister of Defense, Minister of Public Safety, former chief of the Toronto Police Service, Toronto guy. What have you thought of his career in public life?
You know me, Rob. I do live in Toronto, but I don't think of myself as a Torontonian in that sense. Like I look at the world with proper eyes, and I don't think I live in the center of the universe. But in terms of Bill Blair, he hasn't really showered himself with any glory as an MP. I think it's always been a struggle, to be fair, for police chiefs who decide to move into politics. Some do well, some don't. I think Julian Fantino, who I have met before and was a conservative MP and minister, as people may remember, he had a very huge struggle when he was in the federal conservative cabinet under Stephen Harper, my old friend and boss. Mark Saunders has tried to get into politics now a couple times too. He's tried to run provincially, he's tried to run municipally, and unfortunately, he's been unsuccessful. That's part of life. That's nothing particular against him. And until he gets in, we don't know how he'll do when the pressure is on. Bill Blair, I don't think, has really done much of anything to impress anyone, and he's largely associated with things that were either failures or struggles with Justin Trudeau's government. The Freedom Convoy was certainly something that he was overseeing for quite a bit. That was one thing. He has, as Minister of, he was Minister of Emergency Preparedness. He's been Minister of National Defense, both areas where the Trudeau government struggled heavily and, by their own doing, let things slide and slip. Well, whether fair or not, he's the face of it. So obviously anything that's good, of which there wasn't too much, would get pushed to him. And anything that's blame will also get attached to his name. I don't think he's done much. To get land in a cushy position in the UK, I think he would be smart to do it. But whether John Tory's son or others are behind all this, I have no idea.
Well, it's a pretty safe Liberal riding, I must say. I was looking up the history of that riding today.
Easy,
it's bounced back and forth between Liberals and New Democrats in the past, but it's pretty safe Liberal territory these days of Scarborough Southwest. In fact, the last time it wasn't a New Democrat or a Liberal, it went progressive Conservative.
Correct.
In 1984.
Yeah, that 41, sounds right. During the massive
41 years ago today, 41 years ago today, when Brian Mulroney swept to victory with the big PC majority win in 1984. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. Good to hear from you. Thank you.
Take care, my friend.
Speak next week. Bye-bye. Michael Taube, syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. And more federal political analysis is just ahead with two of the best in the business. Our Newsday political panel comes up next on News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
It is time for our Newsday political panel. And joining us today, Gary Keller, Vice President of Strategy Corp. How are you, Gary?
I'm great, Rob. Great to be with you.
Yeah, it's great to get caught up with you today, along with Chris Day, Senior Vice President at Hill & Knowlton. How are you, Chris Day?
I'm well, thanks, and great to be with both of you.
Yeah, very good. Great to get caught up. Let's jump right into it. The political news media is reporting that Mark Carney is planning an austerity budget. Gary Keller, is that how you see it?
Well, Rob, I had to have a little laugh seeing a Liberal Prime Minister like Mark Carney talk about austerity. Well, it kind of reminds me, like the old line from the book 1984, that Eurasia has always been at war with East Asia. Because I did a little research before we got on the air today, and I seem to recall the Liberals over the last 10 years, every time conservatives would say, you're wasting money on X or Y, they'd say, you're bringing in austerity. You're bringing in austerity. Austerity is deep and dark and awful. I checked over the last 10 years, the Liberals 365 times in the House of Commons condemned austerity as the dark machinations of a conservative party. And now Mark Carney, the new, fresh Liberal leader, says we're bringing austerity back. So, I had to have a little chuckle about this. So I guess the question for me with Liberal voters and people who are dyed-in-the-wool Liberals is, after being told for 10 years that austerity was a awful, horrible thing that people like Stephen Harper and Pierre Poilievre would bring in, what's the difference now? Are you actually in favor of doing this? And I think that's the challenge that Mr. Carney may have with some of the regular Liberal voting base.
365 mentions, you said, in the
365 over 10 years, yeah.
Over 10 years. A year's worth of austerity condemnation. Okay, isn't that something? All right. What do you think? Austerity. Mark Carney's playing an austerity budget. Is that how you see things, Chris Day?
Well, everything we've seen to date from the government has been that revenues are down and expenses are up. And I think the latest projection I saw was that the deficit this year alone will be in the neighborhood of about $92 billion. So if that is austerity, I don't know what spending looks like, because frankly, this budget will tell a very, very bleak tale that we're making promises that we are going to have to write checks to keep, and frankly, whether or not those checks are going to be worth what the paper they're written on is yet to be seen. They're going to be carving this out though as spending versus investment. That's something that the Prime Minister has been particularly keen to point out, that there's spending and then there's investment. Now, if they actually start attacking the waste, then that's one thing, and they start making longer term investments in productivity and economic growth, that'll be interesting to see. But if at the end of the day, it's still $92 billion of deficit spending, quite likely, and we'll see that in October's budget.
How do you sell austerity? The Chrétien Martin Liberals did manage to get a certain amount of public buy-in for the massive downsizing that they did during the mid-90s when Harper had his austerity push following the 2008 financial crisis and trying to dig out from that hole. You had planes flying around Parliament Hill that had banners behind them saying, "Harper hates me. Harper hates me." How do you sell austerity, Gary?
Well, normally, and this is what surprised me, given the factoid that I had just pulled out, where Mr. Carney said explicitly this is austerity. The governments don't usually sell this as austerity. They sell it as right-sizing or program review or getting the government down to its right size. In the Chrétien Martin era, it was, we're on the cliff of a financial, the edge of a cliff of a financial meltdown. We have to do this. Like, that was the push. And when Harper did it, it wasn't an austerity push. It was, we spent to get out of the Great Recession, and now we're going to make sure that we have a balanced budget. Austerity for the sake of austerity, I think, is actually a difficult sell. And as a Liberal friend of mine has pointed out, he said, ever since the election, the traditional Liberal voter, who tends to vote for social programs and progressive policies, has received sweet zero from the Carney government. And so, it makes certain voters go say, well, I voted for you and I'm not getting anything from you on the things that matter to me. And so I think that is the electoral challenge, the political challenge that Mr. Carney will have trying to sell this, even though everybody knows that the size of government has to be reduced because it's just grown like topsy over the last 10 years under the Trudeau Liberals. That's what I wonder. Chris, let's pick up there, whether this really will look like austerity or whether it is more of a realignment. That's what I would call it, of government priorities. That bloated bureaucracy is out. We can't have a public service that is numbering 400,000 with an average compensation per person, including the salary, pension, and benefits, of $172,000 a year. Bloated bureaucracy is out. Investments in national defense and public infrastructure are in. Is that how you see it, Chris?
Yeah, I think there's a definite constituency for that and a definite appetite for that, frankly, just given everything that's going on in the world. I think most sentient people and reasonable people will say the size of government, the cost of government has exploded in recent years, and there has to be room to cut. And I think Mr. Carney, as a political outsider, will be given some berth to do that kind of thing. But I think a lot of people, and so picking up on something that Gary was putting out there, is that a lot of people voted for Mr. Carney to keep certain programs in place. He ate the NDP's lunch based on the fact that they'd keep dental care and they'd keep pharmacare and other things. So a real trick will be where do you find substantial savings and not touch programs that people care about and not touch programs that are really endeared to your political base without ticking off everybody, which is another risk in this.
When we come back, the politics of immigration. It's our Newsday political panel. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
With our Newsday political panelists today from Strategy Corp, Gary Keller, from Hill and Knowlton, Chris Day. The politics of immigration. Pierre Poilievre is calling for an end to the temporary foreign worker program. Mark Carney was asked about that, and he said, well, people I talk to in business like the program and need the program. My question for you is, for Canadians, what message lands better? What would you say, Chris?
Well, the politics of immigration, as you put it, are some of the trickiest politics in Canada. And the messaging on this needs to be absolutely calibrated, and coming from both parties yesterday was a bit awkward and fumbled, I think. The message cannot be that big business likes the TFW program because it allows big business to pay people less than they would pay Canadians, and so they like it, and it should stay. That's not a winning political message. The other side of the coin is there are a lot of people in rural Canada and in other places where, for agricultural purposes and other very valid reasons, TFWs absolutely make a ton of sense, and the demand is there because the workforce is not. So getting rid of the program entirely is not a political winner, and saying that big business should drive it is not a political winner either.
What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, I think Chris is onto something here. I think you can be extremely concerned about the program and the growth of immigration overall over the last, from the 2021 to 2024 period, which, when I saw this happening from a policy perspective, in Canada, we've had generally over the last 30, 40 years a bipartisan consensus that in general, immigration is a net positive for the country. But because the Liberals clearly broke the system and deliberately broke the system in a lot of ways for a variety of reasons, some for policy reasons, some for narrow partisan reasons, for the last number of years, I said, I think there's a danger that bipartisan consensus is fragile and could break. And there are, some negative things that can come with that. And so at the same time, the program isn't working as intended. And I think the Conservatives are right to point out that, large corporations in big centers offering $36 an hour and saying TFW only is not tenable with the vast majority of the population. At the same time, I think Mark Carney is right. A lot of CEOs do like the program for the reasons I outlined. And, I've talked to a lot of people in rural and small town Canada who do like facets of the program. So the sweet spot, I think, is somewhere in the middle. But I think from a communication standpoint, trying to sell that, well, we need to keep this program because big business and CEOs like it, is a bit tone deaf.
Speaking of tone, I would put it to you, I think Poilievre's tone on immigration has a harder edge than it has in the past. We've seen conservative parties, though, overshoot on messages about immigration in the past. Okay. Barbaric practice of snitch lines comes to mind right away. Can you win with a hard message on we need to fix the immigration system? Chris, what would you say?
Absolutely. I think most people, and including newly arrived people to this country, think that there are ways that you can fix the immigration system and specifically close loopholes or crack down on things where it's perceived that people are jumping queues or not following due process or abusing the generosity and welcome of their newly adopted country. Those are consistent political winners, regardless of party. To Gary's point, though, he's absolutely bang on. As soon as things get skewed or get blown out of proportion in terms of numbers and wait times and various other things, or there are domestic economic implications of this, i.e., you have endless numbers of 20-year-olds sleeping in their parents' basements because they can't find a job, and yet TFWs are being brought in to staff the local Tim Hortons. That wears very, very thin on both social cohesion and people's willingness to accept large numbers of planned immigrants into this country, and that's really dangerous, frankly.
Gary Keller, can you win with a hard message about the need for immigration reform?
I think you can win with a message along the lines that Chris outlined. I think, Mr. Poilievre pointed out that there would need to be a program definitely for some facets of the existing TFW program, especially the agricultural side of things. So I think, yes, you can win with a message on immigration because the pendulum had swung so far the one way from 2021 to 2024. And frankly, I don't think the message my buddies at the Business Council of Canada and their fellow CEOs across the country are in favor of this, so we've got to do this, is a winning message from Mark Carney and the Liberals.
Be right back, and we'll talk about crime, law and order, crime, the never-ending terrible stories about crimes being committed across Canada, and the reaction from the new Minister of Justice and Attorney General, Nova Scotia Member of Parliament, Sean Fraser. When we return, this is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Back with Gary Keller, Chris Day for our Newsday political panel today. Each passing day, gentleman offers another gruesome story about crime in this country, home invasions, murders, rapes, shootings. Sean Fraser, Nova Scotia Member of Parliament, Liberal, is the new Justice Minister. He quipped this week, I have the posting on his social media. This isn't the Wild West. It's Canada. Canadians deserve real solutions that make us safer, not slogans that inspire fear and chaos for Pierre's political survival. This is not the Wild West. I viewed that as dismissive of the gravity of the situation. And I think the real fear that some people feel in their communities, I thought it came across as out of touch, but that's just me. Gary, what did you think?
Totally agree. Dismissive and out of touch, especially shortly after he made that statement. The horrific crimes that we've seen committed in and around the Greater Toronto area, a father trying to protect his family, getting shot and killed on somebody who, people that are out on bail or out on release. Same thing with a horrible sexual assault of a 3-year-old in the home while the parents were sleeping. Again, somebody out who had been on a previous case. I just think this is a huge blind spot for the Carney government while they're focused purely on the economic situation in the country. Let the current bail and system and the judicial system as it stands stand, I think is just a huge problem, and they are going to have to focus some serious time on this because I think these cases increasingly are where people are paying attention.
Yeah, I think they're totally underestimating the feeling among Canadians right now about the disorder in many parts of the country. What do you think, Chris Day?
To the list of high-profile and disgusting crimes that Gary just outlined, and then the myriad others that we could pull up from just this week alone. These comments came the same day that a 71-year-old woman was stabbed in a grocery store for being Jewish. It's the same grocery store my mother in her 70s shops at regularly. So for people who have any sort of connection to crime location type, people who know people who talk to regular people, they're living what they feel is an increase in crime, and this is entirely tone deaf. It is absolutely going to hurt the Carney Liberals if they continue on this path in areas of the GTA where, by the way, they either lost seats or came very close to losing seats in the most recent election because of people's impressions of crime and the justice system's handling of crime and bail. And so if you want to see real political pain, you keep up the Wild West talk, you keep turning it into an opportunity to try and score political points when you should be focused on keeping people safe.
Show that you're worried about the situation and that your government is working to address the situation, not just, well, this is not the Wild West.
Well, I'm
Get with
guessing
it.
that this has,
You know.
I'm
Your
guessing
point,
this has
Rob,
something to
these
do with the fact
cases-
that the
Sorry, Gary, go ahead.
These cases make it look like it's the Wild West out there. We have the chief of police of one of Toronto region's largest police forces saying, if it appears that we've lost the confidence of the people, people are losing confidence in the police system and the justice system to keep them safe.
Yeah. We have to wrap it up there. Always enjoyed the discussion with you two. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Great to be with you.
Yeah, bye-bye. Chris Day, Senior Vice President, Hill and Knowlton. Gary Keller, Vice President, Strategy Corp. I'm Rob Snow. Talkback is coming up next. Immigration Temporary Foreign Worker Program. We're going to talk about that on Talkback today with your help. The latest breaking news next on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today's topic, temporary foreign workers, the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, the TFWP. Very simple, straightforward question for you today. What should happen to the Temporary Foreign Worker Program? What should happen to the Temporary Foreign Worker Program? Should the Temporary Foreign Worker Program be scrapped? Get rid of it altogether? Should it be reformed? If it's broken, let's fix it? Or should we keep it the way it is because employers say they need it? What would you say? What's your opinion? 1-833-668-2577 lines are open right now. This has become a political lightning rod in this country. On the one side, you have employers in all kinds of industries, and they're saying, if we can't rely on a steady stream of temporary foreign workers, we will go out of business because we can't find workers. And on the other side, you have critics who are saying this program is prioritizing workers from other countries and reducing job opportunities for Canadians, especially younger Canadians who are looking for low-wage, low-skilled work, entry-level jobs. Those are essentially the two sides of it. On the political front, with less than 2 weeks to go until the House of Commons gets back into action, there is the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, and he says this program needs to go. And he did a big announcement yesterday that we told you about in Mississauga. Scrap the Temporary Foreign Worker Program altogether. It's out of control. It's being abused, he says, by wealthy corporations who want to exploit workers, who want to suppress wages. That's the Poilievre point of view. And of course, not everyone agrees with everything Pierre Poilievre says. Maybe you're one of them. Then the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, he's in Toronto having this 2-day cabinet meeting. He was asked about the Poilievre proposal of scrapping the program, and he defended the program. and said there are two things that he hears from people in the business community all the time. That one of them is Trump and tariffs, and you have to do something with trade. And the other is the future of this program, the temporary foreign worker program, and how hard it would be for businesses to stay in business without temporary foreign workers. That's the politics of it. The Liberal government, in the dying days of the Trudeau years, did make changes to the temporary foreign worker program. Companies who apply to use this program, they're supposed to do a labor market impact assessment. That's supposed to validate that they really can't find any Canadian workers to do these jobs, the MLIA, it's called. Those used to be good for 12 months. Now it's only 6 months. In what is known as the low-wage stream, companies now face a hiring cap of 10% of the company's workforce in areas of the country where unemployment is 6% or higher, where the unemployment rate is 6% or higher. Only 10% of the company's payroll can be made up of temporary foreign workers. These workers used to be able to stay in the country for 2 years. That's been cut back to 1 year. All of that happened when Justin Trudeau was prime minister, and immigration was a very hot issue and emerging as a major election issue. Finally, they rushed out and made changes to the program. Now Mark Carney is the prime minister. He hasn't said much of anything about what he would do to either change or reform this program. And again, all he said yesterday was that companies keep telling him they need it and that they rely on it. And gosh, these days, I doubt there are many Canadians who even know the name of the immigration minister, because she has been as quiet as a church mouse on this. It is the immigration minister these days is Lena Diab, by the way, MP from Halifax West, apparently in the witness protection program when it comes to hot button immigration issues. Despite these changes and the promises made by the previous Liberal government to rein in this program, by the midway point of this year, by July 1st of this year, this temporary foreign worker program had already exceeded its annual target. The target for the whole year was supposed to be 82,000. By the last day of June, 105,000 permits were issued. Almost as many as were issued for all of last year when the number was 109,000. So not only is this program as popular as ever, it's more popular than ever. And very clearly, the changes that were made by the previous government have had no effect at all, or have had totally the opposite effect, because permits should have gone down, but they've gone up. And now the labor market is softening. The economy is weakening. The ranks of the unemployed are growing, and youth unemployment is at crisis levels. Youth unemployment rate is more than double the national average, the worst it's been in more than 15 years. 500,000 Canadians are collecting EI. 1.6 million Canadians are unemployed. In theory, there should be less demand for workers from other countries because there are so many unemployed people in Canada already, but yet the business community insists. This is a vital program. This is a necessary program. Without this program, thousands of businesses across the country will fail. So over to you. That's the problem. Those are the two sides. That's the politics of it all. What's your opinion? Let's have a respectful discussion about this today. What should happen to the temporary foreign worker program? Should it be scrapped? Should it be fixed, reformed? Or just keep it the way it is because employers say they need it? 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that. We'll make your call a priority. I'm Rob Snow. Let's kick this one around for a couple of hours. This is Now You Know. This is Talkback. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are asking today, what do you think should happen to the temporary foreign worker program? Scrap it, get rid of it altogether, reform it, there are problems with it. Let's fix the program. Or do we keep it the way it is? You have lots of employers say, I need this program or I'm out of business. 1-833-668-2577 to Dartmouth. Rick up first today on Talkback. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Rob. Look, number one, I just want to say scrap the temporary foreign workers program. I don't believe the companies. The main example I have here in Dartmouth, which is in Nova Scotia, for those people that don't know that, is Walmart. Walmart has, completely shifted its base of employees from Nova Scotians to people from India. It's an amazing transformation that took about 2 years to complete. I have nothing whatsoever against any of the employees that I've run into at Walmart or any other business. A&W, the same thing. A complete crew shift change. It went from all basically white or black Nova Scotians to all East Indians. So there's something else going on here that I just can't understand. With all of the other parts of the immigration problem, this just seems to be one that kind of sticks out as something that is fixable. And like the other day I called, it was the Alberta-Quebec question. But one thing I forgot to mention, I'm just going to throw this in now, was that Alberta doesn't have a problem with Canada. It has a problem with the Liberal Party. So I'll just leave that there. But the same problem with the Liberal Party is this. Even though there has been lots of immigration prior to that, it was when we needed it. And somehow they just have no idea how to turn off the tap, or they don't want to. And Lisa Diab, she is an MP from Halifax. We rarely ever hear anything out of her. So anyway, I say scrap it.
Thank you. That's keeping with a trend. Thank you, Rick, in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia today. Tim in Elmira up next. Tim, you're on the air. Tim, what's your opinion? What should happen to the temporary foreign worker program?
Well, I think that they should continue to do it and dump more people into it, because I think what Ontario and Canada needs is a bit of a helter-skelter situation that pushes people to wake up. So flood it, keep flooding it until everything just goes to crap, and then eventually people are going to wake up to it, because I don't think people are really in the know of what's going on. They're just sleeping.
Okay, what do you mean in the know? What do you mean in the know?
Well, I just think people are asleep on a lot of these issues. They're kind of just not with it. They're not watching it. They're kind of got their head in the sand. But I think it's got to get. My point is, I think it's got to get worse before it gets better.
Before it gets better. Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
When you hear, for example, there's a big industry group would be something like Restaurants Canada, represents all kinds of restaurants, chain restaurants, independent restaurants, all across the country.
Yeah.
And it says, you get rid of this program, thousands of restaurants are going to close, especially in smaller communities, rural communities. You kill this program, you're killing the restaurant. When you hear that, what do you think?
Well, we're still in Canada here. We're still recovering from COVID, the shutdowns from that. If you go across the border, they're up and running. All the restaurants are running. You come onto our side, and we have businesses shut down. Everything's for lease. With the restaurant workers, I think they're hardworking people. And again, we should have something like no tax on tips.
Okay. All right. Okay. But you're saying let it get worse before it gets better, and people will.
I don't. That's exactly right. I don't think a little helter-skelter, kind of quoting Manson here, but I don't think.
We don't need to do that. Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. I don't like the inference there. Jody in Calgary. Jody.
Hey, Rob.
Hi, Jody. Yeah, good to hear from you, Jody. What should happen to this program?
Yeah, I don't think you could like I don't think they can scrap it like totally. I mean, like reform it because you're from the East Coast. I'm from the East Coast. I lived in Prince Edward Island for 8 years. Like you need like temporary foreign workers to they come over and they work in the fish plants and in agriculture and stuff like that. So I mean I understand that point, but as Rick said there, the first caller to get I'm not prejudiced by any means, but I go to a Walmart here in Calgary and it's all East Indian. I'm just like, what is going on
Asian.
here?
South Asian, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
look, who's to say that they're all temporary foreign workers? Maybe they're students here with work visas. Maybe, somebody got a job and they said, well, my brother's looking for a job. Can you hire my brother? I mean, maybe that has nothing to do with the temporary foreign worker program. Who knows, right?
Exactly. And there's also a place there's a little restaurant deli sort of thing right behind my apartment, and I won't say the name of the place, but the whole everybody that works there is all temporary workers, and I'm just like, and there's a guy that I was talking to one day, he's a white Canadian dude, and he was basically saying, man, I don't know what they're doing here, but yeah, so I think it's gone way too far, but they can't scrap
but
it.
But maybe it is vital in some industries, as you're saying, agriculture, fish plants,
fishing,
whatever the case might be.
But before I hang up, all I know is that Justin Trudeau has he's the one that caused this whole problem to start off with. I know he's gone now, but he's the one that started this whole thing. The great prime minister that we had.
Okay, thank you. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. The temporary foreign worker program. You're going to be hearing a lot about this. This is political battle lines being drawn here. You have Poilievre saying, you got to get rid of this program. You have the prime minister saying, and he's not wrong, that he hears it from business leaders all the time. Businesses need this program. They rely on this program. And without it, businesses are going to fail. 1-833-668-2577. What do you say? Have your say. Talkback News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Bruce in Calgary is up next on Talkback. As we discuss today, what should happen to the temporary foreign worker program? What do you think, Bruce?
Well, I'm intimately involved in this program. We have a resort in the Banff National Park. Couple of things. These jobs in the service industry, our youth don't want them. They don't want to be dishwashers. They don't want to bus tables. They don't want to make beds and clean bathrooms. And the idea that foreign workers are paid, taking low-paying jobs. We pay $17.50 an hour for starting wages for all those positions. We're short-handed now. We could hire 5 people. All summer long, we could hire people. And we keep hearing how the youth don't have enough jobs. It's not that. They want the jobs locally. They want the jobs in retail. I don't know what they want, but they don't want service jobs. And the other thing people might not understand is it's not you just go apply for a foreign worker and you get one. It's a big process, including a lot
process,
of
costly process as well. Costly as well.
If you can hire locally, you would.
Okay.
And then on the previous guest was mentioned, a couple of them mentioned about Indians in the plant or Indians in Walmart. Well, I don't know why they have a problem with that. I think the bigger problem here is all the immigration, and people might be seeing that. These people all have work visas. But in terms of the foreign worker program, unless you want to start paying a lot more for your rooms, your food, and even then, I'm not sure what you'd have to pay to get a young person today or somebody to come and wash dishes in a restaurant. It's tough out there.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that's probably going to be the minority opinion today, Bruce, as I'm sure you understand. But I think you've outlined an employer's perspective very well. To Richard in Kitchener. Richard, up next. Hi, Richard.
Hey, how you doing?
Very good, Richard. What's your opinion, please?
Basically, the key word there is temporary. Temporary is long past. We have people that aren't working, that are hungry, need places to live. The last guy there, okay, obviously he's pulling down $200,000-300,000 a year, right? So he's worried about that. So he only wants to pay $17 an hour. But here's the thing: if somebody goes to apply for a job, I've seen it myself. Where there's a lineup of 60, 80 people. There's this may sound racist, but there's only like 1 or 2 white people in there, and the rest are temporary people. You can't go to the U.S. and go to school and get a job there. You go to the U.S. to go to school, you go to school.
Okay.
Why are these people coming here to get jobs, to take a job doing childcare, going to school to become a childcare specialist?
Okay. Again, we're talking about the temporary. Again, we're talking about the temporary foreign worker program. Okay, because that's the program that you have one politician, and Mr. Poilievre says it's got to be scrapped. You have
It does got to be scrapped.
The person who's running the country says, well, employers need it or they're going to go out of business. We just heard from a previous caller who says he tries to hire people from Canada, can't find anybody. And then it's not easy to find people.
I'm on the job banks. I see the jobs flowing through. There isn't a lot of jobs out there, so I don't know who he's trying to hire or where he's trying to hire.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're talking about the temporary foreign worker program today, asking you what should happen to this program. The temporary foreign worker program. Very political. Should it be scrapped? Get rid of it? Should it be fixed? Reformed? Or should it stay the way it is because employers say they need it? You know, just let me say this before we take another call. It is a crying shame what has happened to the consensus on immigration in this country, what we used to call the Canadian consensus on immigration, because for years, if not decades, the prevailing view in the country was that we need immigrants to come to Canada, that it was vital to our economic well-being. And Canada was viewed and actually envied around the world as a country that got immigration right. And you hear it from the callers. That's no longer the case. Whatever consensus there was has been destroyed, I think, because of the policies of the previous Liberal government. I have been doing talk radio for more than 25 years now, and I've been doing call-in radio for a lot of that time. I almost never used to get calls about immigration. Every now and then, but rarely. Now, issues, anything to do with immigration and this dysfunctional system that has developed over time has become one of the top issues in the country. You speak to any pollster. I talk to a lot of them. They see it in their polling results. That's what they'll tell you. Canadians have just, and you hear it already today, Canadians have soured on immigration. To me, that's kind of a sad thing. And I put the blame squarely on the previous Liberal government. Now there's a new prime minister, obviously a lot on his plate. Don't know if this one is even on the menu. I would hope he sees the light on this issue, can maybe make some progress on setting things straight, because it has kind of metastasized into a go-to program for employers, which was not how this program started out, as primarily an agriculture program to alleviate labor shortages on Canadian farms back in the mid-'60s. So now look at it. 1-833-668-2577 to Nelson in Halifax. Nelson. Hi, Nelson.
Oh, good day, Rob.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Nelson.
Well, Rob, I'm telling you, I have pretty unique perspective on this.
Okay.
I work for transit here in the city, and I was there when the temporary foreign workers came in, mainly Filipino in this area, and they were very pleasant people, very nice people. And they come in and they went to work for employers who had a hard time getting them in. That's absolutely true. But now what has happened is, with the new immigration laws, they've brought in, seems like, millions of unskilled labor. And unfortunately, now these Filipino people who have been brought in, they have a term, and they have to renew the term. And when the time came up to renew the term, they weren't allowed to stay because they said, you now have employees here. And unfortunately, they were the people, it appears, from India. So they've actually lost their jobs, a lot of them now, and have gone back home. We absolutely need the temporary foreign worker for the farmers and stuff. There's no doubt about it. The problem is that we brought in so many unskilled people through immigration. And the other way I can explain that is that after I retired from transit, I went to work out in the industry. And I was told
in what
by
industry?
3 employees.
Sorry,
I was
what
in
industry?
the trucking industry. I was in the trucking industry, and I was in the construction industry, and just picking up some jobs after retirement.
Sure.
And 3 employers told me that they will no longer hire Canadians. And they told me that we'll hire an Indian first. That's what I was told to my face. And they said because of basically the profit margin. They said the bottom line is to make profit, and that's what they're doing. And unfortunately, the immigration system was perfect, bringing in people with skills. That's what we need in this country, people with skills. But they flooded everybody with unskilled workers, and now I know in Nova Scotia for sure, employees will not hire Nova Scotians. The rate of employment for our youth is through the roof now because they can't get that starter job through McDonald's or Wendy's or Walmart.
When you hear, because as I said, the Prime Minister is not wrong when he says industry groups say we need this program, Canadian Construction Program, National Farmers Union, Restaurants Canada, CFIB, all of these industry groups saying you can't just do away with this program. Businesses are going to go down the tubes.
The foreign workers program we absolutely need because these people come in on a certain time limit and then they have to renew. But the immigrants we have now are not. They're here fighting for their point system so that they can apply to be Canadian citizens. And by the way, I always found that wasn't fair because before the immigration changed, these hard-working Filipino people who came here and worked hard were not allowed to apply for Canadian citizenship unless they went back to their own country, which I thought was crazy. You're already here. You're already gainfully employed. Why can't you apply? So it was the changing of the immigration system which has caused this problem, unfortunately.
All right, Nelson, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I appreciate that. Ivan in Calgary. Hello, Ivan.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Ivan. Yep.
I'm a former TFW, and I went through the application process, and I became a citizen in Canada. And I'm very happy that it was allowed, and I had this chance. In the same time, I hear many people mess this together two big problems. One is the program itself, that needs to be reformed and improved, of course, but also lots of xenophobic and very poignant language towards people who come here for work, and it's just nasty. I think that if we will be able to reform and make it more appropriate for the industries like agriculture as it was conceived, so this should stay, and we cannot just close, and this will cause a havoc in many industries. In the same time, reforms are needed, and people should be nicer to each other.
People should be nicer. Always good advice, Ivan. But you wouldn't say don't scrap it altogether because there are some industries that do need it. You mentioned agriculture, for example, which is the kind of the roots
I
of
used
this
to work in the meat processing.
In meat processing, food processing. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like an abattoir or someplace like that, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Interesting, Ivan. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577. As we talk about the temporary foreign worker program, calls for it to be eliminated. Should it be eliminated? Reformed? Maintained? As is? Share your thoughts on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're talking about the future of the temporary foreign worker program. There are calls for it to be scrapped. Some callers have suggested it be reformed. Not too many takers on maintaining the status quo, even though employers say without it, businesses are going to struggle without having access to that labor pool. Let's take Linda is up next, Southern Ontario. Linda, what would you say, Linda?
Oh, I'm Southern Alberta, but yeah. The foreign workers that we've had here in this rural area have always been our Canadian, Mexican Mennonites. Like they have dual citizenship. They come up here, they work, and when they're done, they go back home.
Yes.
And they come, and that's a continual thing. So they're coming and they're going. They're not coming and then just staying. Like I find some of these others that even students that have their visas have run out or whatever, they're not going back home. So I think that's where we have an issue.
Okay. Okay, well, that is an issue because one of the trends now, not that I want to get too off topic with people here on study permits, is that the study permit expires. They are supposed to leave the country and they're not leaving the country, or they say they can't go back and instead they're making an asylum claim. They came here as a student, not as a refugee, and now they're claiming to be refugees, but that's a totally separate issue from the issue that we're talking about today.
But we also have some students that they come and they're only supposed to work X amount of hours, but they seem to work more than their X amount of hours.
Okay.
So
okay. I'm not sure how prevalent that is.
In Walmart it was prevalent. But like I say, some of the other ones are saying, it has to be redefined and restructured again. I can see it for, like you were saying, fisheries or farming or something. Those are temporary jobs. When people are working in the food sector or whatever, that's like a part-time job, isn't it? Like you have that part-time job all year long. It's not like a temporary part-time job. It's not like we have tourist season and then we don't.
For example, the Canadian Federation of Agriculture says 78,000 agricultural workers were hired through this program just last year. And that agriculture just doesn't function without us. So you would maintain it for an industry like agriculture.
Well, yes, because there's some, like when you're on the irrigation systems and they're doing potatoes or they're doing beets or whatever, some of these are more intensive job hours for a certain length of time.
Yeah, okay, okay.
So I can see that. I can see where you need to have more people at a certain length of time for a certain period, and then you're done. But I don't see it for, fast food restaurants. Those are the jobs that kids used to get, so they had a little bit of money or a little bit of experience. Those are the kids now you see walking on the streets because they don't get those extra jobs. Or are they the kids that were in a system that now they're out of the system because they were aged out and they have nothing?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm having a hard time following that part of the conversation, Linda, but I'm going to end our conversation there. More callers to get to, but thank you for your call. In agriculture, she thinks there's a space for it in agriculture. Ali in Calgary. Ali.
Hey, Rob, how's it going?
Very good, thank you. What would you say about this program? What should happen to it?
Yeah, I think there should be a temporary pause.
Temporary pause.
For the reasons that a lot of us know what's going on. And I want to paint a picture for everybody. So the people that are coming here, they're not from, you could say the government allows 30% Europeans to come in, 30% Chinese, 30% East Indians, and 30% Africans. But what you see, the pattern is you're seeing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people from India coming.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what they do is, and then there is a hookup. What a hookup is, basically they have operations set up under the LMIA, the Labor Market Impact Assessment.
Right.
And it's not like what it used to be. Like I'm from, my background is Southeast Asian as well. But we got naturalized. My dad has 3 masters. Back in the days, in the late 90s, when either the government needed professionals, they would ask, there's a certain thousand number of doctors they need engineers. My dad was an engineer. We went through the mill to get the process of being naturalized.
But what you're saying, and we're just a little tight on time, what I want to get at, because this is, I think you're hitting on a very important topic here.
Yeah.
Employers who want to access and make an application through the Temporary Foreign Worker Program have to do what's known as a labor market impact assessment. Okay?
Yeah.
And that is supposed to prove, hey, I can't find a Canadian. That's why I need to bring in somebody from another country. You're saying there's abuse in that program. The LMIA system has been corrupted, is what you're saying, right?
Yes. People should not judge people. Yes, people should not judge people through who's coming in, but equal opportunity. Like, I'm from the trucking industry. Now, people that are coming from Brampton, Ontario, and in Ontario, mostly Punjabis, they're coming in. They're like, oh, the companies have wrecked the business. The industry is wrecked, so now we are here. So then the other day I was at a business place.
Unfortunately, we're right at a time. But I think this is such an important issue that Ali has brought up. But what is going on with these LMIAs? What is happening? Like, there's supposed to be compliance with the process, and are employers complying with the process, or has this LMIA system that is so crucial to this Temporary Foreign Worker Program, has it been corrupted? He says it has. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's go to Okotoks. Alex wants to weigh in on the future of the Temporary Foreign Worker Program. Hi, Alex.
Hi. Boy, it's a pretty broad number of issues to deal with, I guess, with this. But I picked up partway through the conversation, and did anybody bring it, like the corporate revenues and the incentives that the government offers for the temporary work program? Because that's what I feel personally, even that I've been kind of a more or less a victim of, where you apply for a position, but I don't qualify for an employer to have an incentive to hire me. And I'm just one out of 1,000 for sure.
What do you think is the incentive for the employer to hire a temporary foreign worker instead of you? What do you mean by incentive?
Because of their revenue. Yeah. So, I just generally inquired, and yes, Canada employers can receive financial and procedural incentives for hiring immigrants, such as wage subsidies through programs like the Welcoming Newcomers, et cetera, for certain sectors. Okay. Yeah. And, you have to say, I
can tell you under the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, there's no wage subsidy there. The company is required to pay the prevailing wage. If it's a union shop, it has to pay the union wage. There are costs associated. As I say, the LMIA is $1,000 for each position. It's the company that is paying for the travel of the worker to Canada and then back again when the visa expires. The company has to cover the healthcare costs, the housing costs. What I get at is so many companies are willing to do all of this, spend all of this money, jump through all these hoops, because they say without it, they won't be able to stay in business. They won't have any staff.
Wow. Well, I don't understand that, because I have applied for positions, and at my age, I'm up there, I'll have to say, but I'm wanting to work and very healthy. I don't understand, why I sure wouldn't be, a candidate for some of these jobs. And it's hard to get through to anybody, to speak with anyone personally. So
there are calls for the Temporary Foreign Worker Program to be scrapped. It's a major policy of the Conservative Party right now. Cancel this program. Would you agree with that?
No, not to cancel it in its entirety, because we do need help every now and then, but it has to be monitored.
So where it's broken, fix it. Where it's broken, fix it, you would say. Okay. All right. That's a popular opinion today. Thank you, Alex. Good to hear from you. That's it for hour number one. A full hour just ahead. A very hot immigration issue, the future of the temporary foreign worker program on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number two of Talkback. We're talking about a hot political issue today, the temporary foreign worker program, its future, with some politicians saying this program needs to be killed. Most of our callers are saying, well, kill it altogether, maybe fix it. If there are things broken with it, fix it. And businesses are saying, well, we really need it, and you can't do away with it. Maybe we should keep it the way it is. We want to know what you think at 1-833-668-2577 on the temporary foreign worker program. Let's get into a little bit of the politics. Let's hear from some of the politicians. Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party, is going to make a big issue of this when the House of Commons is back in the middle of the month, in about 11 days from now. He was asked at an event in Mississauga why he thinks companies hire temporary foreign workers. This is what he said.
Well, in most cases, I don't think they do need temporary foreign workers. I think they hire them because they can pay them less. And it's that simple. They don't want to pay the prevailing wage to the Canadian worker. And so they hire someone from abroad who might be in a desperate situation and willing to take less. And we see it again. Michelle Rempel has been tweeting out these job postings. I think it was it Booster Juice, the one you came out with yesterday? $36 an hour. They're Booster Juice offering $36 an hour to a temporary foreign worker. They specifically say they want it to be a temporary foreign worker. Why aren't they offering those jobs to Canadian kids first? And I'm not now speaking about any particular employer, but we know that there's a lot of abuse in this system where the employers are asking for some of the wage back from their worker. I'm not alleging that for Booster Juice, but it is happening out there. It is a very exploitative system that has allowed corporate elites to profit off of driving wages down and driving jobs out, and we're going to put an end to it.
So that was Pierre Poilievre yesterday. He mentioned Michelle Rempel Garner. In the Conservative caucus these days, she's the critic on immigration. So she has been digging deep into the temporary foreign worker program and exposing what she calls abuses in the program, and on her social media accounts, naming and shaming companies that abuse the temporary foreign worker program. She explained why she's doing that.
It's absolutely egregious that these companies expect that they can just maximize corporate profits on the backs of and at the expense of Canadian youth. It's a practice that has to end. We've been naming and shaming them all week. I want to thank my team for finding those examples, but I encourage Canadians to go and look for themselves. There's been websites that have been set up so that people can see what these companies are doing. But the more important thing is, Ezra, that the Liberals are letting them do this. The Liberals are totally letting them do this. You know, Lena Diab, where was she this summer, the immigration minister? Did she name and shame any of these people? No, she didn't. And that's why we're here today. We're standing up for the people that are behind us. Enough is enough. Canadian jobs have to go to Canadians.
So that was in Mississauga. You know, this cabinet meeting is happening in Toronto. Prime Minister Carney and his ministers. And Prime Minister Carney met the media yesterday in Toronto and was asked about, what do you think of this idea from Pierre Poilievre? Get rid of the temporary foreign worker program. Prime Minister Carney said, well, there are two big things that Canadian businesses are worried about right now. One is Trump and tariffs, and the other is having access to the labor pool through the temporary foreign worker program. Here's the Prime Minister.
That program has a role. It has to be focused in terms of its role. And it's part of what we're reviewing. It's part of what we will be discussing, how well the temporary foreign worker program is working and how our overall immigration system is working. We've been absolutely clear as a government that we want, and we're putting in place policies so that the overall level of immigration as a proportion of the population will decline from around 7% today to around 5% several years from now. Now, the biggest contributor to immigration is not temporary foreign workers. It's a variety of other factors. And I will say, et je vais répéter en français parce que c'est important, when I talk to businesses around the country, particularly in Quebec,
repeat this in French.
Across the country, their number one issue is tariffs, and their number two issue is access to temporary foreign workers.
Access to temporary foreign workers. Number two issue behind Trump and tariffs, according to the Prime Minister. He says when he talks to business leaders. What do you say? 1-833-668-2577. That's kind of the political divide on this issue right now. 3 lines available, 4 lines available there. Wait won't be too long. Peter is in Calgary. Are you with me, Peter?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, very good, Peter. What do you think should happen to this program, Peter?
Yeah, definitely dial it back for sure. I mean, I'd like to bring something up, and this was back in 2016, and Tim Hortons was a part of all this. But how many of these temporary foreign workers do you think go out and start small businesses like landscaping, house cleaning? Like I own a small car cleaning company. I can tell you I'm talking to them all the time. And, how many of those are taking jobs away because they're not making enough money? And, I mean, you walk into any of these places, they're all foreigners. I mean, in every one of them, Tim Hortons, do we really need 10 of them on a block? All these, like, who are these corporate people that need all these temporary foreign workers? Like, we definitely got to get our people back to work, our kids, back to the McDonald's. That's where I started when I was 14. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like, this is getting a little crazy. I can't walk into any business in Calgary, whether it's a Walmart, a home, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see any white people.
Which is not to say, if I could just interrupt, Peter, which is not to say all of those workers who are working in all of these businesses came here through the temporary foreign worker program.
Absolutely right. Yep, you're right.
We have multiple what they call streams, right? I can run them down for you a little later in the program. As for Tim Hortons, I mean, that keeps coming up. And I'm not here to defend Tim Hortons, okay?
Nope.
The company line from Tim Hortons is we only hire temporary foreign workers if we can't find anyone else to do the job. And they say, even if we do hire a temporary foreign worker, it's not a cheaper option for us as a company. That's the Tim Hortons corporate line. Whether you believe that or not is up to you.
Well, I mean, I had to take a side gig running limo, and I tell you, I'm in Tim Hortons all the time, in multiple Tim Hortons all around, and yeah, so I don't know. I mean, they're everywhere. So I mean, I don't imagine someone's going to get in there because they don't fit inside the culture. So that's one thing there. And I don't know if they need that many. Now for the farming, okay, I get it. Like maybe dial in the industries, because didn't they come out with a plan in BC last year for $20 million for a construction fund if you hire anybody like immigrants and so on and so on?
Not to my knowledge, sir. Not to my knowledge.
That was last year they did a 20. Okay, so anyway, aside from that, but I don't know. I think if
I'm just saying not to my knowledge. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying if it happened, I don't know about it. That's my point. Okay, all right.
Yeah, they did a $20 million fund, and if you could draw from it if you hired immigrants and so on and so on, and I get it. But we have enough people, and everybody says, oh, nobody wants that job. Well, they can't get in that job. If there's 10 Filipinos or East Indians, or it doesn't matter. I'm not racist. I'm just saying nobody's going to want that person in there because they're not that culture. They don't talk that way. They're out of place. And
okay, thank you. Got to run. Thank you, Peter. Right at a time. I get where you're coming from. Thank you. More time to take your call. Just a little tight on time right now. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
What should happen to the temporary foreign worker program? Scrapped, fixed, maintained as is. Matt is up next in Calgary. Matt. Hi, Matt.
Hey, here's the legal abuse of the system. It's a quick story.
Okay.
You got a neighbor that's a lawyer, and he went straight into immigration. I said, why would you want to deal with that? He says, because that's where the money is now. I said, I don't get it. He says, most immigrants have 3 to 7 issues legal with the federal government. They can't leave the country until all issues are resolved. He says, it's about 12 years away. He says, before they can get deported. And I said, well, how do they afford you? He says, they don't pay for me. He says, the federal government pays me to represent them. I said, what's that worth? He says, about 5 to 10 per issue. He says, it's good money, and I'm just working inside the federal rules.
Yeah, okay. You're not really addressing the situation here. What about the temporary foreign worker program is the question of the day, sir.
But that's who he represents, is all these people coming in who are getting jobs, and it's all under immigration. And if his visa expires, he represents them to get his visa extended because there's a previous legal issue with immigration. He says it's a great gig.
Okay. Well, under the rules of the temporary foreign worker program, I mean, they are temporary. Used to be you're allowed to work here for 2 years, then you have to go. The employer actually pays for the travel to leave. The visa has expired.
If there's a legal issue why you want to stay, that temporary foreign worker doesn't have to go until the courts hear it, which is about 10 years from now.
Right. Okay. So what do you think should happen to the temporary foreign worker program, to get to the question today? Should be scrapped? I mean, you hear from Mr. Polyev, cancel this program.
It should be scrapped, and just look at our unemployment rate in the country. If it was scrapped, our unemployment rate would go down.
Well, I mean, there seems to be certainly a disconnect between the current situation in the labor market and what's happening with the temporary foreign worker program. I mean, they set up this target. We're only going to take 82,000 temporary foreign workers for the entire year. By July 1st, they had already approved 105,000 permits in 6 months.
Oh, absolutely.
What is going on there?
It's a legal bureaucracy. And once you're in the country, you can't get rid of them. And the companies know this. And by the way, he also said that the government subsidizes their wages to the employer.
Yeah, I question that. I thank you for your call. I get this all the time, and people email me and claim workers from other countries are coming to Canada, and they're working in Canadian companies, and the government is helping to pay their wages. I'm taking calls on this today, took calls on this last week. I've searched high and low. Okay. I have been researching this on my own time for hours and hours and hours because people insist that this is true. I want to know if it's true or not. I can find no evidence that this is true. I have looked, and I cannot find a single program where an employer hires a worker from another country and the government is paying the wage or even part of the wage. There have been programs like that in the past, not for foreign workers, mind you, but for workers in areas of the country that have chronically high unemployment. I know because I was hired as a summer student when I was a much younger man, and there was a program in effect on Cape Breton Island, double-digit unemployment. And as an incentive for businesses to hire young people to do summer jobs, the government, through, I believe it was a COA, Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, had a program. And the government paid half my wage. I wasn't even making $5 an hour at the time. People insist there are programs operating right now in Canada for foreign workers that operate the same way, and there's a direct wage subsidy. I tried to find one. I really did. Spent hours trying to find one. Couldn't find one. Did a pretty deep dive on it. If someone knows of such a program and can fill me in, I'd love to have specifics on that specific program. Call Curtis, let him know, send him an email, he'll send it to me. I'm telling you, I looked for a program in earnest. I could not find one. Back with more of your calls on the temporary foreign worker program. 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The future, if it has one, of the temporary foreign worker program. Taking your calls on this topic today with calls for this program to be killed. 1-833-668-2577 on Talkback. Sabi in Cambridge. Sabi?
Hey, Rob, I just want to say I really appreciate you bringing up this topic for the temporary foreign worker program.
Yeah.
So this program was designed just to provide the skilled immigration and have the right to work, right to live according to the Canadian values here. But we are bringing up the customer service for the Tim Horton. Like, we don't need them. Our Canadian children can do those jobs. Like, summer jobs are almost gone. Nobody can do the basic jobs. We don't need the temporary workers to do those jobs, right?
Okay, let me ask you this. What about in agriculture, for example? Canadian Federation of Agriculture says we need this program. It's vital to farming in this country. 78,000 agriculture workers hired just last year through this program. Who's going to work on the farms, for example?
We have to redesign it.
You have to redesign it then, right? Okay.
We have to spec. It's going to be done through the trade-specific thing. Like, if we need the people in agriculture, we have to make sure they're going to work only in agriculture. They are not hopping to the Tim Horton side, because agriculture is more harder than Tim Horton, right? And I'm not just specifically focusing on the Tim Horton job. Even the other businesses, they are ripping off. Like, if somebody is coming from different country, the third world country, they are going to ready to do the job for $10, and they are also going to pay more and more money for the employer. Like, I just want to give the sad truth. Right now, happening in Canada, some employers are grabbing money, like taking the money to give the job to those foreign workers, and they are paying for LMIAs, like even the 40K or 50K, just to live in Canada and work here.
So again, you're the second person who has said this. You're the second person who has said this labor market impact assessment business. That's been totally, well, I shouldn't say totally. You're saying there's corruption in that.
This is happening under the table. Like,
under the
if
table.
CRA want to know it, they can do it. You're clearly cheating, right? So if you are posting the job for $35 an hour, why you're paying $10 to that guy? And he's not going to speak up because he has the right. He's just living here illegally or have some.
Right.
Maybe,
okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, the immigration system needs to be reset according to the trade. If we want electrical person coming from outside or any other trade job, we have to make sure that they are working in their trades. They are not changing the job just for the permanent residence or Canadian citizenship, right? The things right now happening is one person is coming from a third world country, and they are bringing up 4 others with them, like their parents and kids. And I'm pretty sure they are putting the refugee status as well, because they don't want to go back to their country. And
okay, well, I don't want to get too off track, but you're the second person who seems to have some knowledge about what's going on maybe behind the scenes, and this is one of the big questions I have about this program. Clearly, there seems to be issues with the process and the compliance of the process that is supposed to be in place for this program, specifically with these LMIAs, labor market impact assessments. Yeah, that deserves a deep dive. What's going on with that? Back after the latest breaking news. I'm Rob Snow. It's Now You Know. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We've been discussing today what you think the future should be for the temporary foreign worker program, whether we should do away with it, reform it, maintain it as is. I mean, Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, isn't wrong when he says this temporary foreign worker program has a lot of support from industry groups. It is a long list of industry groups supporting this program, arguing it's vital to their industries. I mentioned the CFA, Canadian Federation of Agriculture. Almost 80,000 agricultural workers a year hired through this program. A lot of other big agricultural related industry groups support the program. Ontario Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association, National Farmers Union, also Canadian Construction Association says construction projects would be delayed without this program. Iron Workers Union calling for reforms rather than a full shutdown. Restaurants Canada, I mentioned, has been beating this drum, maintaining thousands of restaurants will go out of business, shut down, especially in smaller and rural communities. The program is killed. CFIB, representing small and medium-sized business owners, Canadian Federation of Independent Business, doesn't like the caps that have been imposed. Say it's hurting small and medium-sized businesses. So, I mean, Mark Carney is not lying when he says the program has support from industry. Atlantic Canada Chamber of Commerce says killing off the program would cripple seasonal industries like tourism and, seafood processing, working in fish plants. Manufacturers and exporters of Quebec, Alberta Greenhouse Growers Association. So, I mean, it does have industry support. I will say that. Kevin is up next. Yeah. Or Joe. Sorry. Joe is in Kitchener. Joe. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Rob. I have lunch once a week with a very good friend of mine, and he owns multiple Tim Hortons. And he tells me all the time, up and down, white Canadians just aren't applying for the job. I don't know if they don't like the money or if they think the work is beneath them, but the simple fact is they just aren't applying for the job. So if that's the ugly truth, and there it is, that's the ugly truth. Is this a chicken and egg thing? I don't know. Did the foreign worker program drive its own motor, so to speak, to create this problem in the first place? I don't know. But what I can tell you, I don't know if that's a microcosm, but it sounds like a microcosm to me based on all the feedback from all the other industry groups. So that's just my little piece of the pie there, my little take on it. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, my pleasure, Joe. Good to hear from you. As always, Luke is in Calgary up next. Luke, are you with me?
I'm there.
Yeah. Hi, Luke. Yeah. What's your opinion on this program, sir? What should happen to it?
What should happen to it? I couldn't tell you. That's for people smarter than me. I just wanted to echo what the gentleman 2 callers ago was saying with the workers being paid less than minimum wage. That's long been happening out in the residential industry. When you go by these job sites and you see 7 or 8 guys working on one house, and the house takes 2 weeks to build, they're making less money. They have to be, because there's X amount of dollars to build the house, and therefore they have to be making less money to be working that many hours, because those guys, a lot of them are the main culprits are the Sikh community, and those guys work. It's crazy. They work like 7 or 8 in the morning till 6, 7 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. They're guaranteed to be in when there's a holiday. I can guarantee you those boys are working. But when you add up the manpower times the hours and you subtract it from how much those houses pay, there is no way they're being paid. Even if they're being paid minimum wage, they're getting ripped off, because they're used to living a lesser lifestyle, and they're coming here. And that's just how it is. And there's never the owner. I've never actually met an owner of the company, of the guys doing the work. It's always just workers on site. So there's somebody else after those 6, 7, 8 guys who's taking a profit as well. So that to me is where the problem is, right?
Okay. Again, we've heard it from construction industries saying, look, if you kill the temporary foreign worker program, we're not going to be able to build enough houses. You want to build big infrastructure projects in Canada? You want to build pipelines and ports and hydro dams and all of this stuff? You're not going to be able to build it if we don't have a temporary foreign worker program. That's what industry is saying.
They're right.
Yeah.
They're right. If they're not getting these workers, if these people aren't coming, because, and like the last caller said, white people, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. I'm sorry, okay. North Americans, we're letting ourselves down. We really are. I'm born and raised here. I'm white, and I had a Costa Rican guy told me I'm the hardest working white guy he's ever met, and I work 8 to 5.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. All right, thank you for your call. Thank you. It has become a go-to program for employers. This was not how this program started out. The history of the temporary foreign worker program is in agriculture. I've mentioned this back in the 1960s to help alleviate labor shortages on farms. Of course, you think back, 1966, what's happening in Canada? It's becoming more urban. It's becoming less rural. More and more Canadians are moving to the cities. Fewer and fewer Canadians want to work on farms. So the government created this program, first program of its kind in Canada, a bilateral agreement with Jamaica. And you still see in parts of southern Ontario, lots of people from Jamaica working in agriculture. It was later expanded to other countries, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Mexico. Workers come here from those countries, work on farms, send their money back home to their families. After the season is done, workers go back home, come back the following season. That's how it all started. And as I told you, the temporary foreign worker program is still very popular with employers in agriculture. Who wants to do farm labor? You think Luke in Calgary is going to do farm labor? You don't want me working on your farm. I don't know anything about farm labor. Can you picture your teenage son, your teenage daughter from the suburbs of Canada going to work on a farm? Is a 17-year-old suburban Canadian going to be picking grapes in Niagara or apples in the Annapolis Valley or shoveling pig stalls on a pork farm in Quebec? You know, it's one thing for the Conservatives to say, well, just cancel the program. We want to blanket into this program. Okay. Who's going to work on our farms? Just think about that. 1-833-668-2577. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On the future of the temporary foreign worker program, Matthew in Waterloo. Matthew. Hi there, Matthew.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, hi, Matthew. What do you think should be done with this program?
Well, I think it's really become just a foot in the door kind of program. And it's got to be reworked or enforced on what's actually happening.
Okay. And what do you think is happening?
I think like people get in here and like some other guys alluded to is they get in and then they find another job or disappear kind of thing.
Okay.
You say they're supposed to have it for 2 years or whatever, but how much, like, is there numbers available to how many people are actually going after they're done with it?
Well, look, I don't have those numbers. It was originally it was 2 years. Now it's down to 1 year. That's one of the changes that the Trudeau government made. The employer is supposed to, if they apply through this program to bring in a temporary foreign worker, they're supposed to pay for the travel from whatever country they're coming from to Canada. And then once the work time is over after a year, now they're supposed to leave. And the worker is supposed to pay for the employer is supposed to pay for the travel back to their home country. That's the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah, and I might just be pessimistic, but I wonder how many people are actually leaving after they get in. And I don't know if they have those numbers that are actually in and out, but that'd be my suspicion of it, because like most government things, there's not much enforcement on the rules of anything.
Well, see, this is one of the questions that I have. Is this, is there a big compliance issue? Is it a question of compliance? What kind of checks is the government really doing? The government is saying, well, we do inspections, and the company has to keep all of its records for 6 years. And yet the government sets a target of 82,000 temporary foreign workers for a year, blows past the target in 6 months. And by the end of June, the country's already admitted almost as many temporary foreign workers this year as it did all of last year. How does that happen?
Yeah, exactly. So it's got to be lucrative, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah. How does it happen?
Because
what does
like
this target mean?
guy said, the temporary workers for a dishwasher, $17 an hour in bounds. Well, then they got to supply housing. what's the rent in Banff? That like shouldn't the wage for a Canadian be like $25 an hour then or something? Because it'd be less cost for the housing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he said in Banff they also have to pay for housing and health care and travel, as I mentioned. So it was a lodge of some sort, so maybe he has housing at the lodge already for them. You know,
yeah, but like, you think you'd be able to roll that into a wage for a Canadian instead of going through all the rigmarole of?
He says they don't want to be dishwasher. He said that's what he said when he called. They don't want to wait tables. They don't want to wash dishes. They don't want to work in a kitchen. That's what he says.
Because the little I've seen too is $36 an hour seems to be the magic number on these LMIAs or whatever it is.
Well, I suspect that's because that's what an average hourly wage in Canada is now, according to the monthly jobs report that comes out.
Oh,
that's probably what it's based on.
My thing would be either reworking it or having an actual real look at it and see what those compliance levels are at.
But you heard what Pierre Poilievre was saying about this booster juice example. Pierre Poilievre says, well, Booster Juice puts up an ad for, we only want to hire a temporary foreign worker and pay the worker $36 an hour. $36 an hour. Yeah. How many Booster Juices are you selling at $36 an hour, and what do they cost? He is alleging, not necessarily about Booster Juice, but that there have been reports of stories. The employer says, yeah, we're going to pay you $36 an hour. The worker gets the job, thinks they're going to get paid $36 an hour, and the employer claws some of it back.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't really need $36
an hour. It's got to be looked at because it's way too common that something's not right in it. Stinks.
Something. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. That was Matthew. And that's the music. Okay. All right. We'll stop here. There's so many moving parts to this. There's so much information and so many things that sometimes don't make sense when it comes to this particular program. Scrap it all together. I don't know how realistic that is. Do a deep dive on it, make reforms where this system is broken. That's a popular opinion today. Status quo, not a popular opinion today. On Talkback, share yours. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
All right, not a lot of time, so let's get right to Tim. Is in Calgary today. Tim, on the temporary foreign worker program. Tim.
Yes, thank you for picking me in, Rob. Love your show. Love you.
Thank you.
Quick one. With the Tim Hortons issue, let's understand that Tim Hortons is a franchise. So sometimes the franchise owners are actually the ones that hire their own people. You know, so some of those people might not even be temporary foreign workers. They might just be, in this case, fellow Indians. You know, I hate to use that word, but that's just the reality.
Yeah.
But I think
Let me give you an example. Because when I was a much younger man, I worked at Tim Hortons in Ottawa.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And this had nothing to do with the temporary foreign worker program.
Yeah.
Somebody applied and from the Philippines, got a job, hard worker. Okay.
Yep.
All of a sudden, my cousin is here from the Philippines. He needs a job. He works as hard as me. The employer says, hey, well, let's hire him. My cousin is here. He needs, and before you know it, one Filipino turns into 8 Filipinos working in the kitchen. Has nothing to do with the temporary foreign worker.
It doesn't. And well, I think there's nepotism that needs to be addressed, you know, because I travel a lot. Sometimes I come into Canada, you know, or through most of the airport. The security, it's all, I don't want to be targeting a specific demography, but I'm like, wait, am I coming to Canada or am I coming to New? So I think there are deeper issues that need to be addressed. And Pierre Poilievre, by the way, I've called into your show many times. I am conservative through and through. You know, I love him. But I think it's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, him saying he's going to cancel it. No, we need them. Like, you know, the associations of the farmers need them. You know, they are seasonal employment that employers that do need them. So we can't, maybe it needs to be revamped, you know, but the issue is not with just temporary foreign workers. It's nepotism. It's, you know, there's a lot more that needs to be addressed.
But thanks all. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tim. Thank you. Yep. Bye-bye. And James, I think, is going to get the last word today. James is in Strathmore. Hello, James.
Hi. How are you, Rob?
Very good, James. Your opinion, please.
My opinion, I have a question from all this program, the temporary foreign worker for low wage, was created in 2002. My question is how the restaurant business was surviving pre-2002.
Good question.
Right?
Yeah. Fair question.
So I'm saying how were they surviving before? To me, these restaurant owners and everybody that says, well, this is going to kill the business, just BS.
It's BS. Okay.
Absolutely. 100%. It just reminds me of the situation when Donald Trump was, deporting this illegal immigrant that was working in the farms and everywhere. And then people were saying, you know what? This is going to affect the economy of the U.S. What happened? Nothing. People will find a solution. Restaurants will find solutions in their business. They are bringing cheap labor.
Mm-hmm.
They're using the cheap labor.
Okay.
And they're just coming in the media and saying this is going to affect. No, it's not going to affect. Somebody has to come and say, you know what, pre-2002, this was the solution. What was the solution? I think Harper was brought like 2,600 low-wage foreign worker back in 2014 across Canada.
Wow. Okay. What about agriculture? Do you feel the same way about agriculture or seafood?
No, agriculture is totally a different category.
That's a different category. Okay. All right.
Yes, of course, my son or somebody else's son that attends university is not going to be able to work in agriculture. That category should be there. But I'm
category
talking
should be
about
there. Okay.
Low wage workers.
Yeah.
We have to be able to employ our kids. They're Canadian born. We have to put them into the work. They will work. Whoever says they won't work is absolutely wrong. Somebody
All right,
else
James.
will do that job.
Got to run, James. Yeah, you've made some very, very interesting points, important points today. I'm glad we took your call last today. Thank you for the discussion again today. Tomorrow's the Friday Free-for-All Talkback, so we'll follow your lead. The latest breaking news is coming up next. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.